Steel Curtain Network.
Touchdown! Touchdown para Calvin Austin! El Monte Washington es arma. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién más? DJ Watt!
What is going on, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Welcome back to another post-game show. It's another losing effort, fourth in a row. The Steelers dropped their Week 18 game to the Cincinnati Bengals, 19-17. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Dave Schofield to break it all down. What's up, Dave? How's it going?
How do you think it's going after dropping 4 straight games, Jeff? It is not going very well. No. My goodness, it was a whole lot of frustrating.
Yeah, I can honestly say I've never been so unexcited for the playoff game. I don't know if that's the right word to use.
That's
I mean,
a good way to put it.
This is just if you could look at the schedule and you could drop, okay, what's the worst possible way the Steelers could secure a playoff spot weeks ahead of the playoffs even starting? What's the worst way they could get into the playoffs? We would be this. You would get your doors blown off by those 3 teams. And then you would, I mean, this was just an awful performance, especially on the offensive side of the football.
Oh, yeah.
It was bad. What's your knee-jerk reaction, Dave?
Knee-jerk reaction is you're supposed to have a big-time, when it comes to the offense, you're supposed to have a big-time playmaker and a veteran quarterback. And both of them they might have been the 2 worst players on the field in this game. It was bad. The decision-making by the quarterback at many times was awful. I kept getting messages from my brother at the stadium saying there are guys wide open and they are not getting the ball. It wasn't that the receivers weren't getting open in this game. It was, I expected the Steelers to come out much, much more in tune after all that time off, and it looked like the last several games. And honestly, I'm shocked that they had an opportunity to win this game. I mean, I was frustrated with the defense a lot early on, but when you look at it, they gave up a touchdown on the opening drive and nothing since. I mean, they gave up all field goals after that. So really, if using your magic number of 20, the defense took one of the top offenses in the NFL and held them to 19 points, but the offense just couldn't play complementary football.
Yeah. And I think that for me, when I think about this loss, I'm not one to quickly put it on coaches. To me, this was a huge, they got out coached. They had all that time. They had all the extra break to rest and to get everyone on the same page. We still saw defensive backs running around with like chickens with their heads cut off in the 4th quarter of the game. The offensive plan, at what point do you abandon ship? Like at what point?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't until like the 4th quarter that they said, well, maybe we should try throwing the ball a little bit more. They're still just running the ball, run, pass, run, pass. I was ready. If I didn't have to do this job, I would have thought about turning the game off after that botched end of the first half where the Steelers, well, first Pat Freiermuth doesn't get the yards to gain on 2nd down. They try a quarterback sneak on 3rd down. They go for it on 4th down and they don't get it. It's just, this was bad.
Well, the thing is, first of all, I thought he had the first down before anything hit out of bounds. Now, I know sometimes they say, where's the ball when it crosses the plane to the sidelines? I've always thought that was a load of crap, whether it really is what they're supposed to do or not. Anyway, they said with a half yard, even the announcement said he was a half yard short. And it would have been maybe a half yard short. But when they spotted that ball, it was a full yard. They spotted it back a full yard. So, and Russell Wilson ran the sneak and wasn't ever really hit or anything to go down. He just went down on the ground far enough that wasn't far enough. So it was just, they botched that. Some people didn't like running the sneak there. I'm mad they didn't run the sneak 2 plays in a row because honestly, who's your best offensive lineman? Zach Frazier. Run up his butt. Do that. All night, I was saying, because I had to cover the knee-jerk reaction. I know I'm kind of going off a little bit here. Stop trying to run the ball outside. You're having so much more success running the ball inside, whether it's the toss is just ridiculous. But anyway, run it inside. That's where they were having their most success, rather than trying to beat the Bengals around the corner. It just didn't seem to be what was working. So it was just baffling. I mean, my goodness, they got their second completion of the second half with less than 11 minutes left in the game.
Yeah. I mean, and I had to chuckle to myself when I'd have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure coming out of halftime, the Steelers get the ball in the third quarter. What was the first play they run from scrimmage? A sweep. They run the pitch. It's like, oh my gosh, can we fire?
They did that the first play of the second half.
That's what I'm saying.
Lost 4 yards. Yeah, I thought you said the fourth quarter. Yeah.
No, the second half, you just had all of halftime. You're talking about what are we going to do? How are we going to come out?
And you're
in the second half.
Everyone in the stadium knows you're running the ball with that formation.
Yes. And so what do? Let's go out and run that toss play. The one that works like once every 50 times. Let's run that one. Let's start the second half with that.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to be frustrated this entire show. And I know the fans are too.
But you know what? Here's what I want to do, Jeff. This is what we're going to do. This is just as much for people in the live chat. I know we got super chats coming and everything else. We're going to be frustrated, but we want to speak how it is, not overly knee-jerk. Every player needs benched and every coach needs fired. But we're going to be critical where the Steelers came up short. So if you're mad that we're not claiming that everyone needs benched or fired, you're not going to hear that. Now, there might be some people that need benched and some people that need fired. We might get into it, but it's not going to go that far. And we're also not going to say it's all sunshine and rainbows, because it's definitely not that either. We just need to keep it real and talk about what really happened.
All right, well, let's start off with the super chats like we always do. And here we have Rob Chapman gives us $4.99. Says, I don't think we need to worry about Pickens getting a big contract.
Oh, talk about coming up flat in the biggest circumstances. So what was that? Was it one reception for 0 yards?
Yep. He and Dave, we do the X Factor article for SteelCurtainNetwork.com. He was my X Factor because this guy had been under heavy scrutiny the last few days. What better way to go out there than to go out and have a dominant performance? Because if you watch the league's best receivers, hell, we got to see one today on the other side with Jamar Chase. Are they ever taken out of a game? The answer is no. And then you might say, well, he has Joe Burrow. Okay, well, what about Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson in Minnesota? The guys just, they find ways to impact games. I don't think George Pickens is on that level. And to me, the headache is real. We'll put it that way. Yeah. All right, let's go to Sean Manahan. Gives us $5. Says Steelers shake the 4-game losing streak and finally win a playoff game if. Wow, Sean, that's go ahead, Dave. How you?
Is it impossible for them to win a playoff game? No. Is it likely? No way is it likely. I expect them to be big underdogs in Baltimore, which is most likely where they're going to be, probably next Saturday, because they both played Saturday this week. There's still a chance to go to Houston if the Chargers slip up against the Raiders. But how do they win? They start making routine plays routinely somehow, which doesn't seem to be the case. But two, they've just got to, they're going to have the turnover. Like, so many fluky things go their way. Not having, the ball bounce right to another player. They even ended up on the right side of the turnover battle tonight. Just not enough. They're going to have to be at a +3 to have a chance to win a playoff game, it feels like.
To me,
it's not possible. It's just not likely. Yeah.
They could win a playoff game if they get the timely takeaway and they eliminate the turnovers from their game. They still can't do it. That Calvin Austin fumble was a backbreaker. The defense finally got a punt. And then what happens? You cough it back up. And people will say, well, they got a punt. That they did the same thing in the fourth quarter. It doesn't matter. At that time, that was horrible. And it's just as I think someone on Twitter, I don't know who said it to me, every week it's another guy that kills this team with a costly turnover, whether it's Russell Wilson, today's Calvin Austin, it's been Najee Harris. It's just every single week. They can't beat good teams when they turn it over like that.
No.
So if we even wanted to have this discussion, you got to win the turnover battle and you can't turn it over. I think that's where they are now. They can't turn it over. They cannot have a turnover. They haven't been able to do that since 10 straight games. So, all right, let's go to Steel Dog 88. Gives us $5. Says not one appearance by Justin Fields in this game and worst possible time for Pickens to get the yips. I was surprised we didn't see Justin Fields in this game. I honestly am. Even if it was just for a change of pace, I'm not expecting him to be. I wasn't expecting Russell Wilson to be benched, but I was surprised we didn't see Justin Fields.
Honestly, they didn't have the ball enough time of possession or enough plays because they just weren't getting first downs to consider it even more.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they still could have, but it's really hard my goodness, what was the more important thing to come out of this game tonight, Jeff? For the Steelers to right the ship and get on and be on a better path going into the playoffs, or to win? It was more important to right the ship, and they didn't do either of these things.
No.
So to do that with Fields, I would have loved to have seen it, honestly. But if you go back to one specific spot, by the time they got to the fourth quarter where they're having to throw all the time, I'm like, no, I don't think that's when I want Justin Fields in there either. And I can't find another time that would have really been a good time to do it. I'm not saying that they were right for not doing it, but it wasn't like it was obvious where it could have worked well.
I think, too, you bring up valid points. They got dominated in time of possession in this game, and so they didn't have the football a lot. But go back to something you said a little bit earlier, not related to Justin Fields. Let's say Pat Freiermuth catches that ball, the last throw, 4th and 12, and he catches the ball, and let's say Chris Boswell walks it off, and they win 20-19. Do you really feel better about this team going into the playoffs?
No.
I sure as hell wouldn't.
I would have felt a little bit better because of what their matchup would have been, but I would not have felt better about that unless they felt like that was something that, when you win without playing your best football, when you can build on that, it really wouldn't have given me any kind of major confidence that they would win anything next week, even if they would have won it. And honestly, if Pat Freiermuth catches that ball, gets tackled there pretty close, I don't think they had time they barely were going to have time to spike the ball, and they really weren't in Boswell's field goal range. So that would have been a 60-some yarder at least, if not 70. Because they would have been just across midfield, not very much. If I recall correctly,
that 54-yarder that he made was good for another 10. Though I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, I would have loved to have. It's funny because my wife, wearing her Boswell jersey that she got for Christmas, when the Steelers were at 4th and 12, she's just like, "I'll just let Boz try it anyway." I'm like,
why the hell not?
78? It would have been great, but no, it wouldn't. No, I wouldn't have. You're exactly right, Jeff. But honestly, the Steelers, they had a better chance. If Wilson doesn't try to throw that ball to the sidelines to Pickens and throws it where he's running wide open down the field, they probably get a touchdown to win the game.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, let's go to Faceless Man, gives us $20. Is this the veteran presence Tomlin rationalized Russ for? He's the reason why we have this losing streak, not sliding in the red zone fumble, a pick in the end zone against the Chiefs, a pick 6 against the Bengals. Obviously, it was not part of the losing streak, but we get it. Taking unnecessary sacks, not a single snap for Fields. Faceless Man, thank you for the $20 tip. We do appreciate it. I will say that Russell Wilson's play in certain situations has been really poor for a veteran quarterback. When you think about the run, there's 50 seconds left in the game. He could have gotten out of bounds or at least tried or thrown the ball away. Throw it away. Stop the clock.
He wasn't going to get enough yards for it to matter.
But he lowers his shoulder into a defensive back, gets tackled, 20 seconds goes off the clock.
And then takes a sack.
Yeah. When you absolutely can't take a sack. I mean, that's where I know the fans that have been waiting to jump on this is Russell Wilson, but these are issues. Didn't see these earlier in the season, but we're seeing them crop up now for sure.
And I mean, so is it that he's not going through his reads fast enough or something, or is it that he's just too friggin' short to see? I don't know, but there were guys open and he wasn't hitting them.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Chris Turney. He gives us $4.99. He said Wilson went 6-5, doesn't deserve a contract. This game was embarrassing and makes one wonder if it was thrown with all these drops. Okay. Thank you for the tip. I think
I wouldn't say thrown. You know what I would say? The Bengals winning this game gives more drama to the NFL slate of games tomorrow.
Sure.
And honestly, if you want to say, well, where did that ever come into play? Anytime it went to replay.
Fair. So, yeah.
Not saying definitely, but I'm saying you can't say that. You at least have to consider it.
Sure. And I think in terms of the quarterback contract stuff, this evaluation process is going to happen till the very last whistle when the season is over.
Yeah.
And so don't think that the Steelers aren't watching this and saying, man, this guy's fading down the stretch. I don't think this is a guy we want to pay $40 million a year, even if it's only for 3 years. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but trust me, they're evaluating these players just like we as fans are as we watch these games play
Yeah.
out.
Well, I mean, when I filled in for the Q&A the one time, I can't remember how long ago it was, but when I had Jeffrey Benedict, he came back and sat in there. People were asking about, do you bring Russ back? I'm like, you still got a huge sample size of games left. Now you don't. And it has not gone in the right direction since I had Jeffrey on that show. So paying that kind of money, unless something absolutely amazing happens next week, which I'm not banking on, I don't see how you do it.
No, I don't either. Tom Plays Games gives us $10. He said, $1 per W, not the season I was hoping for in donations. Not excited about next week. Feels like Ben's last game in Kansas City. Thanks for another great season of coverage, gents. Tom, you're one of our longtime listeners and viewers. We thank you for the tips all the time, and you're always engaged, and we appreciate everyone that's been a part of this entity, whether it's behind the Steel Curtain back in the day or now the Steel Curtain Network. We appreciate every single one of you. Let's go to Nathan Smith, gives us €5 and says in the last 3 quarters, the only time they threw the ball on first down was the 2-minute drill.
Yep.
First down was atrocious. And Dave, I don't know if you have the stats. I can look them up at one point, what they were. I saw Sharp Football. He had him on social media. Go ahead, Dave. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I'll try to find
first down. Are you talking first down?
Yeah, I have it. I retweeted it.
I don't. They don't have first down stuff where I
Here it
have
is.
things here now. So hopefully you can find it.
So this is from Warren Sharp Football.
Mm-hmm.
He said the Steelers on first down tonight have been in an utter disaster. This is before those waning minute, garbage time stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not garbage time, but you know what I mean. They had 3 pass dropbacks, 0 completions, and 1 sack for -9 yards. They had 12 running back rushes, 42 yards, a 3.5 yards per carry. They had 15 total plays for 33 total yards, a 2.2 yards per play. This is all on first down. This was posted at 10:13. So this was, still early, just right after halftime-ish, so that tells that's a very telling, interesting stat about the Steelers' first down failures. And Mike Tomlin was asked about it at the post-game press conference, and he didn't really have an answer. I don't expect him to in that setting, but still, it was that bad.
Yeah. I mean, it was. But honestly, how many times did the Steelers come out to start a drive? Whether, obviously when you start a drive, it's first down. So I'm even more about the first play of the drive.
Right.
And they were just lined up with personnel in a formation that I'm like, it's a run. This is what we saw the previous 3 years on first down.
Yep.
On every play where it's felt like you knew what was coming. Why are you getting into a situation where you're doing that? And I'm not going to bash Najee Harris because I felt like he was doing just fine tonight, but he doesn't have a big repertoire of various things he can do for you as much. So especially when he's in the game and you're in that formation, you kind of know what's coming.
Yeah.
And my thing is, I kind of thought more. I thought Arthur Smith would be better than that. But you also don't know. Sometimes, Coach Tomlin said in the post-game press conference that, we had a game plan coming in tonight based on the conditions, and it didn't work out. In other words, he basically said, we decided we were just going to run until they stopped us, and it didn't work out. Yeah, you're right. And the problem is you stuck with it. I mean, you stuck with it so long, you gave yourself a chance at the end, but if you wouldn't have stuck with it, but honestly, I don't think pass would have necessarily been the answer either, because Russ was really stinking it up too.
Yeah. It was bad all around. Let's go to Arthur Steele, gives us $4.99. He says the L is definitely on the coaches. Mike Tomlin gets credit when we win. Same goes for losses. Offensive play calling was horrid until the fourth quarter. Typical December/January collapse. Thank you for the tip. Appreciate it. Our buddy Andrew Palladino gives us $10. He said play calls, clock management, drop balls, fumbles, everything went wrong that could have gone wrong. It's not the losses alone that hurt. It's everything in between. No heart, no fight, need change.
Yeah.
You could count the players on one hand that I felt were from start to finish, they were there and they were going to prove something. Jaylen Warren, you never question that guy's heart. He's not going to go down easy no matter what. Najee Harris, people love to hate on that guy. He runs his butt off and he's not going to just go down easily. But there's so many players that just seem like they were going through the motions. I agree. It's the in-between stuff. Dave, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. You said it good. I'm just going to let it there.
All right, let's go to Todd Williams. Gives us $4.99. Says what Pickens did today was losing football. Do you think Mike Tomlin will address it? Well, I don't know. I mean, he dropped the ball, and I don't think that he had a bad day. I don't know what Mike Tomlin would have to address. I mean, trust me, George Pickens is probably pissed off at himself more than anyone else.
Let's just say this. I think we all as Steelers fans realize that the way George Pickens is handled and the way somebody else like a Cam Hayward or TJ Watt is handled is not the same. So I don't know what it would take to handle him. It's going to obviously come. I mean, I think it'll be discussed. I just don't know if it will, what angle you take based on Pickens the way he is.
His maturity. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah,
he's not mature.
That's the best way to say it.
Person. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Chris Turney gives us another $4.99. Said coaching was abysmal. Can't bring myself to even watch next week. I had a lot of people on Twitter saying this. I'm not even going to watch next week. Hey, that's your right. I'll be damned if I don't watch a playoff.
I will take as much of it as I can before the long off season.
And let me just say this: if they play the Ravens, so be it. They go to Baltimore. Weird stuff happens in these games, and wouldn't it be sweet if they somehow beat the Ravens? That would be hysterical. That would be so funny. And living in Maryland, it would be so sweet. But I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. Trust me. All right, let's go to Kyle Smith. Gives us $5. Wilson cannot be the quarterback next season. Awful ability to read the field. Awful decision making. Had Pickens for a 60-yard game winner and choked it. You're right.
I'm not disagreeing with anything that was said there.
Yeah. You can't. All right. Oral Richards gives us $5. His 5 years of bad drafting haunts as quarterback unanswered. Free safety. Running backs overrated. No dynamism on offense. Trade Pickens. Watt. We cannot run in stupid swing passes. I will say this. In terms of like the trade everyone thoughts, which some of those are just a little much. There are some players that if I'm the Steelers, I'm listening to offers. We'll put it that way. If someone comes to the Steelers and said, I'll give you a late second round pick for George Pickens, I'd think about it. I'd think about it for sure. I'd think about it. TJ Watt, it would have to be a king's ransom for me to get rid of that guy because he has 1 year left on his deal, Dave? And then they have to try to figure something out.
Yeah, I think he's going into the last year this year. So the question was, is he going to be extended? So
yeah, he has 1 year. 2025 will be the last year in his current deal. So yeah, that'll be nice.
That will be plenty of things that we talk about in the offseason. Like, would 2 1s and a 2 be enough? Something like that. So, but yeah, 2025 is the last year.
Cass gives us $4.99. Can Kyle go to the playoff games? We need him. Pay Kyle. He was there
tonight. Kyle was in my seats tonight.
Yeah. Was he on a streak?
He had been on a streak. Rich was on a streak. Rich was on a post-COVID streak of wins. I think Bad threw it off, him being there.
He's got some bad juju. I don't know what it is.
I don't know either.
He had the whole family there. So, all right, let's go to Thomas Eads. He gives us $5. Hope I said that correctly. He said, got outcoached and outplayed, and Pickens is another A-B without results on the field, and Russ is done, and poor time management late in the game. There you go, Thomas. You got all that $5, buddy. He got it all in there. Yeah, I mean, Pickens didn't show up when they needed him the most. I loved Pat Freiermuth's game, but until he dropped that last pass, I mean, that sucked. I mean, that would have put him over 100 yards probably or close to it. So, yeah, Thomas, I agree. 100%. Let's go to Tom Shannon. Gives us $2. Feel bad for Cam. He played his tail off. He and that defensive front, Keanu Benton had a great game too. You look at his.
Cam had, what is it, 3 passes defense? He came in with 7. I think he finishes with 10 on the year.
Yeah, which is shocking. The stat line, he only has 1 tackle. So everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, he only had 1 tackle." He impacted the game in a lot of different ways.
A lot.
And boy, was he bull rushing that guard.
And he compacted Joe Burrow on that play.
Yes, he did. I thought they might give him a half a sack with Nick Herbig. They did not.
No, but the reason was because Herbig was between Cam and Burrow.
Yes. Were you surprised there was not a penalty there?
I felt like the reason to not throw the penalty, I wouldn't have been shocked if they did it because they just do it if a quarterback, gets hit. I mean, honestly, I just thought he had the wind knocked out of him because the ball landed on his. He started to lose the ball, so the ball was lower. It almost hit him lower, if you know what I mean. I thought maybe, okay. Then I thought maybe that's what it was, or if it just hit him in the gut and knocked the wind out of him, of that nature. But the way they broke it down on TV, that because it was one player at him and then another player compounded things, there was really nothing else they could have done. But how many times has there been nothing else the defender could have done and they don't get the benefit of the doubt on that? So it wouldn't have shocked me if they'd have called it, but I felt like they shouldn't have, and they didn't.
All right, Claude Bishop gives us $5. Says the best gift that the Steelers can give their fans is to have Tomlin and his whole coaching staff resign, except Danny Smith. Man,
it's just funny that Danny Smith is the guy.
Man, how the times have changed. Danny Smith used to be one of the guys everyone wanted out of there. I will say this: special teams are normally perfect, good. The kickoff coverage was awful in this game. Kickoff coverage. I mean, other than that, punt coverage and stuff, that's neither here nor there. Kickoff coverage, they're kicking it short. I know what Mike Tomlin will say. We're trying to pin Joe Burrow and the offense back as far as they can.
But you're not.
You're giving them more yardage. They're starting closer to midfield. Kick it out of the end zone.
After they kicked that field goal and kick it off, and they kicked it right to the goal line. The guy probably could have, caught the ball one step further back and not run it out, but they chose to run it against it. You know what? Teams are good. You're going to start kicking it 3 yards deep or 5 yards deep, and teams are going to run it out on you anyway, because they still think they can get it past the 30, even starting that deep. And the reason that last one frustrated me is I'm like, they are now on a part of the field that they are close enough to midfield that if it gets to 4th and short, then they can go for it without thinking. Right. Now, Keanu Benton put him in a 4th and very long with his sack, so that was good. So it didn't come, but that could have come into play.
Absolutely. Special teams matters. Let's go to Metro Berto. Gives us $4.99. Says going to assume the offense left their game plan at Dave & Buster's during their powwow. Hopefully they prove a lot of us wrong and win next Saturday. Yeah, but Bryan Davis wanted them to go to Dave & Buster's. I don't know if that's on the docket for this week or not, but let's hope they figure something out. Matthew Baldonado gives us $10. Says, I'm so frustrated with this team. I hate to say it.
Aren't we all?
But it starts from the top with Tomlin. Regardless, I love my steel curtain. God bless Jeff and Dave. Have a good night. Thank you, Matthew. And thank you for the tip. We're all frustrated. Whether you're watching with us live or whether you're listening to us or watching us in replay, it doesn't matter. We're all frustrated. Almost 1,000 people watching live. We're all freaking frustrated. Let's go to Nicholas. Gabriel gives us $2. Says, what's worse, Najee toss or any Patterson play?
It didn't to me. Why was Patterson in there when he was in there late? If Najee was out, why are you not going with Jaylen Warren?
They were giving Warren a break. Warren had been out there for several plays. The question is, why are you giving him the ball if he's in there?
And they're asking him to pass protect, and he gets called for a hold.
Yeah. That's par for the course.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Let's go to Chris Turney again, $4.99. Thank you very much. Said the defense was above the line, holding them to 19 points. Yeah, the red zone defense, which has been an issue, held the Bengals to 1 for 4. They did their job.
The bend but don't break can get frustrating, but but when you look back in the moment, I was frustrated with the defense, especially when they went touchdown field goal right off the bat to start the game. But when you look at it and you're like, man, they held this team to 19 points. That's actually
Yeah.
Not bad when you know that so many times that happens with the defense. You feel like they're not doing the job, and really the best way to look at it is after the fact when you look at it as a whole.
Right. I agree. Faceless Man gives us $2. Says Deshaun Elliott felt like the only one who cared. Yeah. And he was definitely
no. Don't tell me how you with Cam Hayward. You'll never convince me that one. Yeah.
Cam was out there. I mean,
yeah.
TJ Watt was getting a lot more breaks than I
thought. But Deshaun Elliott, no, he was playing hard. He was really going after it.
Sure. Steel Dog 88 gives us $2. Says why not more Beanie Bishop over Cam Sutton? I don't know. Beanie Bishop gets out there, the ball finds him. He has his third interception of the season. That was a great play. Heads up play.
It was a nice play by Queen to knock the ball, and it was really nice play for him to scoop it up before it hit the turf.
Absolutely. All right, Chris Turney again, $4.99. Thank you very much. He said Freiermuth seemed really off tonight. That drop at the end of the game was very unlike him. Well, he had 85 yards receiving and a touchdown. He had a great game until that drop.
Ooh. I think whether it's true or not, I'm going to say it. I'm just going to put it out there. People were probably like this anyway. He couldn't believe the ball was actually thrown to him when he was open in the middle of the field and not on the sideline. That's probably what happened. He was probably so shocked that he got the ball where he did that he didn't catch it. Now I know I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but it unfortunately there's some truth to that.
Maybe. Let's go to Oral Richards. Gives us $10. Matt Canada looks like a genius. Run into the wall and repeat. No matter the coach, if you don't have the trigger man, 10-7 is your destiny. 10-7 is your destiny. Jimmy Johnson and Belichick couldn't. You're right. If you don't have a quarterback in the NFL, you could have the best offensive coordinator in the world, and it's not going to matter. So that's something that we're going to have to carry with us into the offseason whenever that starts. Crystal Privet brings this up. She gives us $2. Says, y'all missed George Pickens trying to fight fans in the stands. I saw him having words.
What is this?
I don't know about a fight. I saw him having words with some fans, but I don't know. Fighting? Maybe that happened. I don't know. Let's go to Tom Plays Games. He's Jeffrey the Ultimate Homer, as I always have been, always will be. He said, this is real bad. Yeah, I think he's talking about when I was talking about going to play the Baltimore Ravens next week. Rob Tidoff gives us $4.99. Says, love my Steelers, but this offense is worse than the Malone and Brister years. Go Irish. Notre Dame fan, got to be excited. And lastly, Tim Lyons. Here we go. Tim Lyons, a Bengals fan. $2. Good luck in the playoffs. Yeah, maybe we'll see you there. I don't know. Maybe not like see you as in play, but maybe you'll be there too. You get the help you need. Cincinnati could be in. So, all right. Let's take a break. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to fly through. We've talked a lot about this game already through the Super Chats. We're going to talk about some specific stats that we want to touch on, and then we'll get out of here. So if you're watching live on any platform, we're not going anywhere. If you're listening on the audio side, just bear with us for a couple ads. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. We are back, Steeler fans. Tom Plays Games gives us $2. Up, wrong one. He says, nah, just your overall tone. Well, I don't know how much. I guess I'm not talking properly. I have a cold. Sorry. Let's talk about Russell Wilson first, Dave. 17 of 31, 148 yards, a 4.8 yard average, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, was sacked 4 times, 78.4 rating. If we're talking about pass pro just in general, the Bengals sacked him 4 times, but also had 8 quarterback hits. And unfortunately, the Steelers decided to put Dan Moore out on an island with Trey Hendrickson, who had 3.5 sacks. So, Dave, what's your take on Russell Wilson?
Did Hendrickson have 3.5 sacks?
He sure did.
Oh, my gosh. He is so – well, at least you don't have to hear about Myles Garrett leading the NFL in sacks because they were tied coming in and he had none. So Hendrickson's gonna lock up, the sack lead unless somebody else goes even crazier tomorrow. But good for Hendrickson. He's a good player. But man, although you don't like to see that going up against the Steelers. Yikes. So what was the exact question? Is it the passing game or Russell Wilson himself or what?
It's kind of all together. Like you can throw in pass pro. I mean, I thought Dan Moore looked like a turnstile at times in this game. They didn't give him help. So that comes down to coaching still. So you're designing plays where their best pass rusher, who is tied for the league lead in sacks coming into this game, you put him on an island and he gets 3.5 sacks and wrecks the game.
But last time they played him, he didn't have one tackle or something like that. So I would have to go back and really compare the film because I don't really remember if they gave him a lot of help or not. But I just felt like Russell Wilson's. This is the best way to say it. I lost trust in Russell Wilson to actually make a good decision. Now, people may have lost that a long time ago, and I'm not saying that I overly trusted him, but I felt like the decision making and everything with the passing game tonight was just bad. So I've really soured on Wilson. I mean, as the season's gone on, it's been like, yeah, maybe other teams are figuring out. Yeah, maybe it's the coaches that aren't zigging when everyone else is zagging. In other words, there's film out there on Wilson. You know how to stop him. If that's the case, then you gotta tweak stuff. But it just seems like it's more of the same. And if you take away certain things, he's not going to see other things. So you might as well leave them open. I just felt like in all, it was, even at the end, even when the Steelers got their touchdown and everything, I still never felt like they really got it going. They just so happened to have it work out at that time. That's why whenever, even after the Freiermuth touchdown, I'm like, I still don't trust the offense to do it again. And my goodness, it was the special teams that set them up for another field goal to where they would have only needed a field goal at the end rather than the touchdown. I just didn't trust it. I felt that the decision making was poor. I felt that the ball there, it's not that no one's open and the ball's just not going there. It felt like everything was either a check down or a deep ball outside of the fourth quarter. Where's the intermediate passing? It's like you're not even looking for it. Yeah. So, I mean, whether that's Wilson or whether that's coaching, I don't know, but I'm going to blame both of them.
There you go. That's fine. You're allowed to do that. I think that offensively, when you look at the other numbers, because I don't want to spend a ton of time with the minutia after the long first half. So you had rushing. The Steelers only rushed for 74 yards. Najee Harris led the way with 12 carries and 36 yards. Jaylen Warren, 621. Pat Freiermuth, he led the Steelers in receiving, 8 catches for 85 yards on 11 targets. Mike Williams is the second leading receiver with 1 catch for 25 yards. Najee Harris has 4 catches for 20 yards. Van Jefferson, 3 for 18. And no one else had any yards. George Pickens does have 1 catch for 0 yards. This was kind of just offensive ineptitude, wasn't it, Dave?
Absolutely. I'm sorry, but Jaylen Warren, no catches, though he was targeted one time with the ball thrown way over his head.
Yep.
He needs to be involved in the passing game. He needs to. Calvin Austin, no catches, 1 target, should have caught it. That's kind of what you're and Pickens, all those targets, all those drops, 1 catch, no yards. All you have to do is look at that, and you're like, there's no way the Steelers are anywhere close to being in this game. They shouldn't have been in this game when you look at those numbers. They really shouldn't have. I don't know. I don't know how they were.
Well, yeah, a couple bounces of the ball. That's about how it goes. But David, we've hammered on the offense and Arthur Smith's play calling and all that a lot. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the offense before we go to the defense?
Yes. The offense is fragile. And when you call plays that just don't specifically work for your offense, you are wasting plays. I'm not saying every toss is bad, but a lot of them are. And I'm saying trying to run the ball on the outside was not effective at all. the Steelers had some nice runs up the middle of 9 and 10 yards and things of that nature. Bottom line is, I get you can't just do the same thing every play, but there's certain things that you just don't do well and you just don't block well. That's insanity, trying to do those things, continue to try to do those things and hope you do better the next time. You just need to take those plays that you just don't execute well and stop trying to do them better because you're wasting plays.
To me, it's amazing how in week 18, there were so many plays. I call them DOA plays. They're dead on arrival. You can tell once the ball is snapped, this play is done. The screen game, that pass to Jaylen Warren, they were lucky that pass was over his head. There was a pass to Najee Harris. I wish he would have just dropped it. Like just batted it down like a volleyball. I said
that in the knee-jerk article. Yeah.
Don't catch it.
You're better off not catching it.
Yeah. Just see that the play's not good. Now he doesn't know that. His back's to the defense. He might think that I catch a turn,
And that's why on another one, Russ wisely, it's not that he was awful on every single play of the game, but he wisely on one of those screens, I think, threw the ball. And you know what? That screen might even have a chance. Maybe he didn't even do it on purpose. But I'm okay if you know that you're going to run a screen if it's going to be for a loss, that you intentionally don't throw it to where they can't catch it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. So enough about the offense. The defense, we had mentioned them a little bit in the first half when we were going through our super chats, how there were times where it felt, you said it best. You said the bend don't break defensive style can be frustrating. And there were times where the Steelers were down in the fourth quarter by 2 scores. And I thought, even if the Steelers score, I don't know if they're going to get the ball back in time to go score again, because the Bengals were just killing them in time of possession, and the Steelers weren't really scoring quickly. We'll put it that way. And so, but the Steelers defense slowly but surely really did contain this Bengals offense, but it really changed. And Dave, I want to get your take on this before I look at the numbers. It really changed when T. Higgins left the game with an ankle injury and was unable to return, because that meant that Joey Porter Jr. got to go over on Jamar Chase, and then whoever the other receiving threats were, although the tight ends definitely had a day against the Steelers today. What was your take on the moment Higgins left the game with his ankle injury?
Do you remember at what point he left?
It's in the second half. I know that.
Yes, I know that. Well, if you look at it, the Bengals really didn't do all that well in the fourth quarter. They had 3 first downs. They were 1 for 4 on third down. They only had 49 net yards in the fourth quarter. So it did make a difference, I would say. I'll tell you this. We'll never know. But if I was going to give you a prediction, I would say that the Steelers wouldn't have even had the ball to try to tie it up at the end if Higgins wouldn't have left the game.
Yeah. Because it's tough. It's a challenge to try and cover everything. But what were you going to say?
Well, no, I was going to say, and with Corey Trice guarding Jamar Chase for a lot of the game, some people are going to be like, oh, that's the best receiver in the NFL, people. And he didn't do awful. They say Corey. That's
Cody Allen says that basically Corey Trice is complete trash. Gives us $2.
No,
I wonder.
It was his first NFL start, and they had the confidence to put him on Jamar Chase with help over the top. There were some plays where he was right there, and Chase is just that good. He's going to catch the ball. That's the kind of receiver he is, and it just goes to show that you see flashes for that from one of the Steelers receivers occasionally, but not like that consistently. I would not say that Trice was awful. I would say that it was definitely a learning experience. I wouldn't say it was bad. I'd say he probably did better than what Dante Jackson would have done. Yeah. In all honesty. So you could say, well, hold on, that was only in the fourth quarter. My stats were a little bit messed up. Chase, he did have 10 catches for 96 yards. That's not, and he did have the 1 touchdown, and Trice turned like, wait, wasn't someone supposed to be helping in the middle so he didn't get beat to the outside? which is what it looked like on that touchdown early. That's why it was so frustrating that the Steelers let the Bengals go down and score a touchdown so quickly to start the game. I mean, think about that for a second. Once the Steelers offense touched the ball for the first time, the defense never gave up another touchdown. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
But I mean, so when you look at Jamar Chase, 10 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown, it's not like he came out here and completely embarrassed the cornerback in his first start. Granted, there's a lot to learn. Granted, he wasn't perfect, but I'd say there's hope for. That's one where I'll look the next season and say there's hope for next season
for sure. And then like Steel Dog 88 gives us $2. Says, why was JPJ not on Chase to start? The Steelers
That's what they did the last time.
They did the last time. They said, we want you taking out their number 2, and we're going to double team Jamar Chase. This is like the Bill Belichick style. He used to always do this in New England. We're going to take out your second target, and we're going to triple team your best target. And it worked. It worked in the first time. Did not work this game. And then lastly, Tom Shannon gives us $2. Says Trice was fine.
Yeah.
And he's a very willing
I
tackler.
wouldn't say he played great, but I'm not saying that he was awful. Yeah.
Yeah. From a secondary standpoint, I was more frustrated with the Steelers' inability to control tight ends again.
Yes.
So Mike Gesicki has 8 catches for 68 yards, Drew Sample 4 for 14. And it was just these back-breaking plays sometimes. And Gesicki early in the game, you could tell that they saw something on film that they're like, we can take advantage of this. And they were just breaking off big passing plays. To me, that was more frustrating than anything that Corey Trice did or that anything that Joey Porter Jr. did. I don't know, Dave, you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I mean, when you
look
look at
a lot, I need to let you talk some.
When you look at the numbers, that the Bengals threw for 246 net yards. They ran the ball 68 yards. Khalil Herbert, although he had 3.5 yards average, he had 69 yards on 20 carries. I mean, Joe Burrow had 1 carry for a -1 because he kneeled out the final snap of the game.
Yeah,
so
that's the only carry outside, that wasn't the running back, whatever his name was.
Right.
Herbert.
Yeah, Khalil Herbert. So,
but I mean, I said it in the knee-jerk article that it seemed like on Christmas, Patrick Mahomes showed what you could do against the Steelers defense. Throw a quick, your guys will be open right off the line of scrimmage. Hit them. And Joe Burrow's good enough to duplicate that. And that's what he did early. And then the Steelers, I don't know what they did to adjust, but they were able to, I don't even know if they did all that much to adjust other than the fact that they were able to lock it down when they got down to the red zone.
Yeah. The red zone defense, again, they did their job. They forced field goals. And so, Trice, you talked about his penalty. He was flagged for defensive holding, which negated a strip sack of TJ Watt.
How many sacks have TJ Watt had negated by a penalty in the secondary this year? It seems like there's been at least like 3.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that wasn't a good, honestly, he was afraid he was getting beat deep for the touchdown and he held.
Right.
Which sucks because they still got to him. But if he wouldn't have held him, Burrow would have thrown the ball probably and the sack wouldn't have happened. So,
yeah. Notables for the Steelers defense, Corey Trice leads the team in tackles with 11 total, 7 solo. Peyton Wilson, second in that category, 10 tackles, 8 solo. Deshaun Elliott, third, 8 tackles and 7 solo. You don't want to see a cornerback leading your team in tackles
versus the safety that leads it every week. It seems like
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not good. That is not good. So, all right, Dave, special teams. I thought Corliss Waitman did a good job. I thought Chris Boswell was Chris Boswell.
Dropped the snap, but the TV wasn't even on him when he did it.
No.
They had to go back and show it later.
Calvin Austin, again, like just that untimely turnover.
Yeah.
Untimely turnover, which did that result in a field goal, I think?
Hold on. I can let you know real quick. No, it resulted in an interception.
So they didn't even get points off of that takeaway.
No,
That
the
interception negated
Steelers
it.
ended it with the interception.
Okay. I thought for some reason that they got a field goal off that.
No, it went where the Bengals got it on the fumble. The Steelers got it back with the interception, turned it over on downs, and then they got the field goal.
There it was. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts, Dave, about the game, about the coaching staff? Anything else you want to bring up that maybe has been on your mind?
Well, the coaching, the coaching wasn't good. It really wasn't. I understand if it's going to be cold, you might want to have a game plan to run the football, but honestly, you should be able to adjust better as things go on. And here's the thing. If the Bengals would have missed 2 field goals, let's just say they missed 2 of those field goals. So you're talking 13 instead of 19. And the Steelers had their 7 from that they got early in the game. You know, it was their second possession, but it was in the second quarter when they actually scored. Would the offensive even tried to go up tempo or anything and try to get back in the game if they'd have been within a score?
I don't know.
And that's sad that they were still trying to keep doing the same thing until they were down multiple scores with too much time left, or with not enough time left in the game. That if the kicker for Cincinnati would have blown a couple kicks, then the Steelers probably wouldn't have even bothered to go hurry up or anything that they did that was then effective. But then again, that was also how the Bengals were playing. You know, they were up multiple scores, so that probably affected how they were playing as well. And that was the thing. So I would say that I didn't like the game, how stubborn they were to stick to that offensive game plan, that obviously they weren't doing the routine plays routinely. They weren't winning possession downs to have longer possessions, all of those things that we hear. But yes, it's the players not executing, and it also feels like the game plan isn't there either. It's a big combination. And when it comes to coaches keeping their jobs for next year, I don't like to look at it on a game-by-game basis. I think you have to look at it as a whole whenever it's all done. But I would say the coaching did not do it. The coaching was not good tonight. But also the execution, particularly from the quarterback position, was so bad that it's hard to determine where one stops and the other one starts.
I'm going to ask you a tough question, Dave, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. And you'll be honest, because I know you will.
Yeah.
Do you think Mike Tomlin can still get the job done?
Do I think or do I hope?
No, it's do you think?
Based on the data, it does not appear that is the case. It appears that you're going to win between 9 and 11 games and not be a team that's on the rise going into the playoffs. Teams, I mean, ever since 2020, it's been one of those things of the Steelers are a team that other teams can figure out as the season goes on, and they don't have enough in their repertoire to change it up to where you don't know what's coming. I think they've been figured out, and the Steelers, I don't know if it's that they can't or that they won't do enough tweaking to where other teams can't just figure it out that's even possible. So my hope is, because Coach Tomlin is still going to be the coach of this team for the next several seasons as long as he wants to, in my opinion, not because I'm saying he should. I'm just saying it's the way things are done. If this was a situation like Mike McCarthy, where he was coming at the end of his contract in this offseason, this would be a really big discussion. But that's not the case. And we also know how the Steelers are, that until Mike Tomlin decides that he wants to go, they're not going to do anything about it. But right now, I don't think that the way, I mean, especially when you look at this game tells me the most about the Steelers. you look at the last 3 games and you say the 3 games in 11 days, oh, but 4 teams had to do it. I laid it out in Pittsburgh Standard Time, but nobody had the hard road that the Steelers did. But this was a game that they should have been able to win if they would have played decently, and they didn't. And they still almost won it without playing very well. So I'm also not one of those people that think the Steelers are just oozing with talent. I don't think that's the case either. So I don't really, based on what we've seen, I understand why so many people are critical of the coach. But at the same time, the realist in me says he's not going anywhere unless he chooses to go. So you can sit here and cry about it all you want to, but it's not going to change anything. So that's why I hope that he can get it done. But based on the data, I don't think he can. Does that make any sense, or is that just a Dave answer?
No, you answered the question, because, like you said, what do we have to go off of as it pertains to whether Mike Tomlin can get the job done? The dude hasn't won when it mattered most in a really long time.
Yeah.
That's not the biggest issue, because a lot of people are saying, like, well, Kevin Colbert screwed him over. If you think that Kevin Colbert was making draft picks without the head coach's approval of a pick, like, I just don't know what to tell you. Now, if you want to go back to like pre-Tomlin, those players aren't even on the roster anymore. Those selections that were made in the waning years of Kevin, geez, I can't even talk right now. Kevin Colbert's era, those were made as a organization, as a front office. Like, that wasn't like someone, hey, we're going to make this pick and not tell Mike about it. Like, that doesn't happen, at least not with the Steelers. So I don't use that as an excuse or a cop-out for Tomlin. I think the most disappointing thing about Tomlin that I've noticed in the last few seasons, especially since Ben Roethlisberger's retirement, is that he does not want to change. And that's probably the one thing that just, my gosh, sometimes you have to be man enough and a leader enough to say, I need help and we need to change. And whether it's not always personnel. We saw that this past offseason. Gosh, the roster turnover was incredible for what the Steelers usually do. But he doesn't want to change. He doesn't want to change the way he wants to win. He wants to win these grinded out, run the ball, control the clock. He doesn't want to get innovative on offense. That's why they hired Arthur Smith. He doesn't want anything other than his Tampa 2 defense being done. That's why they keep Terrell Austin. For me, that's the most frustrating part of Mike Tomlin's late tenure with the Steelers, is an inability and almost a desire to not change that is beyond frustrating. That's all I'm going to say.
Jeff, we're going to have a long offseason to talk about these kind of things. But right now, kind of when you're coming off this 4-game losing streak before we get into, playoff football, this is actually a good time to try to evaluate these things. I'll tell you this. There are things that Mike Tomlin does as a head coach that he is better than anybody else in the NFL. But you want to know what those things are? They are really good in August and March and May. You know what where's his weakest point? Things that get you being the best coach in December. And now even January. I mean, the Steelers' January regular season record was unreal coming into this game. Not now. It's just the things that he does. You can, a lot of people are like, oh, he's just a cheerleader. You know what? He is a motivator of people coming in. But when the season is this long, honestly, going to a 17-game season is not a good thing for a Mike Tomlin. When he is an inspiring coach, it's really hard to keep inspiring that long into the season. It's really hard. And he's not, and if he's not the X's and O's guys, then you have to surround yourself with great X's and O's guys. And I don't think that they have. So it's not that there aren't great attributes of Mike Tomlin, but it doesn't mean that those attributes help the team win in December and January and even get to February.
Yeah. And for those that might just be joining us or forgot the question in general, the question was, can Mike Tomlin still get the job done? And that's just all we're answering.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's a horrible head coach. No. I think that he brings value. I just don't think that what I'm seeing as of late has been enough to make me answer that question with a resounding yes, because we've seen the results. So let's get the super chat up here and we'll do some final thoughts here. Tom Plays Games gives us $2, says that question is what I meant by tone, unlike Jeff. Sorry, Tom.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
I don't know either.
Okay.
All right, Dave, what's your final thoughts here?
I said for the last 10 days or so that people that have written off the Steelers to be able to do anything in the playoffs after they lost those 3 games in a row, I was saying, hold the phone. Hold on. Hold up. Because really, after the Steelers have 10 or 11 days off, we didn't know exactly when they were going to play at the time. After they have the 10 or 11 days off, they have the break. They're at home. They play against the Bengals. It wasn't about a win. It wasn't about a loss. It was about playing better football. Now, we saw better football from the defense. And we saw something we haven't seen in a long time. The Steelers actually winning the fourth quarter. That's right. They won it 10-3. They had been outscored in the last 3 games. I think it was 37 and something. I mean, even 5 games. I went back and they'd given up 65 points in the fourth quarter in the last 6 games. That was almost 11 points. So, and they hadn't been scoring in the fourth quarter. This Steelers scored their first offensive touchdown in the fourth quarter since they played the Browns on Thursday night. They hadn't scored an offensive touchdown in the fourth quarter. So there were some things that they did here that I really wanted to see them do better, but they didn't even set themselves up well to get there was the problem. So when I was saying, hold the phone, hold up, let's see how we feel about the playoffs after they come back and have one more game to finish out the regular season. Now, for those of you that are down about going to the playoffs, I get you. I join you. It's not an impossibility, but it is a very much an improbability of the Steelers playing any more than one more game this season. So it's frustrating. It's sad. I don't want the season to be over, even though it is frustrating, because we are here every day, 365. So when the Steelers aren't playing, it makes it a long off season that I'm not ready to start. And I would have much rather seen a longer run in January, but based on their opportunity to get right with the added time, they came up short. And there's not really much that I have. Sorry if I'm a downer. Sorry if I'm not giving you a lot of hope. Sorry about that, but I'm just keeping it real. We'll see you next week, Saturday or Sunday after the game. Yeah. We'll talk about it. But unfortunately, the long off season is probably a lot closer than what we want it to be.
Sad, but true. Those are true words. And so the one thing I always want to reiterate after games like this, when we have so many people joining us, it is like therapy. It's therapeutic for all of us, including Dave and myself, that we're not going to go anywhere. You know, you might have some podcasts that when the season ends or after a loss like this, they just don't do anything because they don't want to talk about it. That's not us. The Steel Curtain Network will be here every single day. SteelCurtainNetwork.com is a website I'd love for you to check out. If you haven't before, SteelCurtainNetwork.com. Check out all of our podcasts. I'll have a special winners and losers tomorrow on our audio only feed. Check that out wherever you get your podcast by searching Steel Curtain Network. But that's it. Labor of love, and sometimes it sucks. So this is one of those nights. But Dave, thanks for being here. Everyone, thanks for chiming in. Until next week or whenever they play, we'll be back on another Steelers post-game show. Take it easy, everyone.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.